Today we have some brand new footage from Odyssey showing us a walkthrough of a space station. There's quite a bit to see here, so let's get straight to it. The video opens up in Bradfield Orbital in the Ovid System. The station is a high-tech economy which is possibly reflected in the styling of the environment here. Later in the video I will compare this to another station interior that we saw previously, just to get an idea of how the different stations can compare. Now stations, just like today, will be locations players can go to in order to pick up missions, trade and buy ships, as well as upgrade all those lovely different things in. Keep in mind that the station interiors are not a replacement for in-ship menus. Everything you can do inside a ship, you'll be able to still do inside a ship when Odyssey releases. What we are seeing here is an additional layer. Mission givers are dotted around the port, and you can interact directly with these people. We saw an example right there, but we'll come to another one in just a moment for a more detailed look. As we've heard previously, there are a variety of different departments on stations. The one on the screen here is Pioneer Supplies, where you'll be able to buy weapons, suits and equipment. The suit section of the store is particularly interesting. This item here appears to be the torso part of a suit, seemingly being sold separately from the suit itself. There's also boots here, and the blue gloves especially stand out. Now, it's very likely that answers to speculation and questions like that will be answered today on Frontier's livestream, so I'll be releasing another video very shortly with any additional information. Do keep an eye out for that. I've actually pre-prepped this video some hours before Frontier actually released the footage. Now inside the station here, it's an impressive sight to be sure. Looking out the windows there, we can see the interior of the station, and yes, that is a live view of the station. If your friends come in the station in the ship, you'll see them fly in and you'll see them fly out. Everything is in real time. Here we are then at another mission giver. Now unfortunately I've had to mute the audio here due to potential issues with the music being played in the background of this clip, but let's have a look at the mission itself. So the idea here is to go in and distill a genetic sample, likely using the genetic scanner that's available as a tool. Got to sneak into a settlement and make the best of it. At the bottom we've got a few options. What does the job involve? So this takes us to a more traditional looking mission screen, something you'll be very familiar with from other missions. Some changes here of course to the layout, but the information is all good. We can ask what the payment is, and we can even negotiate the prices here. In fact, there's a number of options here. Can you offer a little extra? You'll have to offer more. I'm going to need a much better offer. Now you can see as we move down the options here that the more we ask for, the higher the chance is of that actually failing. We're asking for a significant amount here. I guess I'm going to need a much better offer. The success chance of that is low. Now your chances of success here when negotiating is determined by two factors: your reputation with the faction and your rank. In this particular case, your mercenary rank, which is very likely related to this particular mission. Also, missions have a number of outcomes. You've got a chance for a minor failure as well as a critical failure. The critical failure is pretty self-explanatory. A minor failure will result in the loss of your bonuses on any reward. So in this particular case, they went with the top option, which had a very high chance of being successful. The guy does approve that, and you can see here the reward is a little higher now. So that's one way of getting missions from the mission givers. We've seen a few of those dotted around this particular port. There are also mission terminals, which we get to in just a moment. Over here we can trade with the barkeep. We've got the option to trade or the option to sell. Now to be perfectly honest here, I'm absolutely clueless as to what's going on here. There's no information as to what this all relates to or what is actually going on in this particular trade. Now it seems that the player is traded in 10 graphene that has a total value of 130 barter. We can actually see that information in the trading pool. Below that it says graphene, barter cost per unit 23, total units 5. Above that, right at the top, we can see trading for graphene. So very odd here because it really does seem that graphene is being traded for graphene. But of course, without the further information from Frontier at the moment, the context of this is a little hard to understand anyway. But hopefully by the time you've watched this, that information will be available, so I'll provide an update very, very soon. Again, keep an eye out for that. Now, I do want to mention that in the previous demonstration we saw from Frontier on the heist mission, I wasn't overly impressed with a few things there. Some of the AI, which apparently has been improved now, we'll have to see. But when it really comes down to it here in the station, I am actually pretty impressed with what we're seeing. It has a lovely feel to it, really nice ambience. It feels lived in, and that can only improve once we start seeing other players running around the same area. I mean, at this point, it really is a cliche to say it, and I know I get a bit of a ribbon for actually mentioning it, but it does have a nice sense of immersion to it. Now, over here, we can purchase ships. This is exactly the same functionality as we get in the shipyard when on board our ship. The interface is somewhat different though. We can search by ship manufacturer and then purchase your desired ship. You can then swap this out and it will be placed in the hangar on a landing pad for you to go on board, and we'll see that in just a moment. So the player is picking up a dolphin here, and you can see that their Federal Corvette goes into storage. Now in just a moment we're going to take a look at some older footage so that you can get a bit of a comparison to other stations. Hopefully we'll find that the layout of each station interior is actually different and it's not just a simple reskin. The holographic table over here is pretty interesting, and it did seem to have some panels there for some interactive functionality maybe. Now up here is something that Frontier still haven't discussed in too much detail. It seems to be related to Frontline Solutions. Now what we do know about Frontline Solutions is that it is a mercenary service where you can go and sign up for missions which will basically get you into ground-based combat, sometimes a quite large-scale ground-based combat. Now here we have the mission board. We can see the UI is vastly improved and allows us to filter missions in many different ways. It's actually going to be interesting to see whether ship missions are offered here or whether this particular mission board is exclusively for on-foot missions. We can see these ones, both of them are for settlements. And unlike with mission givers, there's no opportunity here to negotiate prices. Nice little UI element down there on the right as we accept the mission. The rest of the functionality on the kiosk here seems to be the typical options that we would expect inside a station. Now, there's quite a few things that Frontier don't touch on here. There's Apex Interstellar, the taxi service, which we saw them walk past right at the start of the video. And although we saw them in the distance, Vista Genomics and Frontline Solutions were also not looked at in this video. More for later. But at any rate, here we get into the lift, or is it actually a turbo lift, which takes the player to their hangar. It actually does this pretty quickly, as we can see here. Now, the hangar is exactly as you'd expect. It's the traditional hangar we've had all these years in Elite Dangerous. The only difference is the room here that takes us through to the hangar. Now, gotta say, it really is nice to see ships finally from this point of view whilst on foot. The Dolphin really isn't the best ship to look at, I guess, from this perspective, but nonetheless, it's a great perspective to have. But likewise, also got to say, it's very disappointing that getting into the ships is simply a teleportation, the fade to black. There's a brief menu there, which is similar in functionality, I guess, to the one that you have in an SRV when getting into the ship, allowing you to move items between your inventory and the ship. But there we go, a fade to black to get inside the ship. Ultimately, as disappointing for me at least as that is, I would have liked to have seen ship interiors. The transition is very smooth, it happens very, very quickly, and like I say, walking between the interior of a station and then flying off in a ship pretty much as seamlessly as that is going to be a great addition to Elite Dangerous, and something which has long been needed. Now this is the end of the clip as Frontier had it, but let's jump back in time a little bit and compare this station interior to a previous one Frontier showed a little while back. So it's very early to make this judgment call at the moment, but from all appearances, and do keep in mind this right here was early development footage, but to all intents and purposes it appears that the layout of different stations, the interiors, is more or less the same. And I did loop that twice there, as there's not much footage from previous station interior clips. So there we have it. All in all, very impressed with what we've seen so far, but I really want to see more before making any judgment call. I will be back with more information very soon. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.